like to keep y'all informed on the things that I report on, and I tell y'all, I like to show them in real time. So now we have the influx of migrants from the South America, Ecuador, Guatemala, different places, and they let them into the major cities in the United States. But we've been having this uptick in violence, violent crimes, shooting of just, this is like the second under 15-year-old girl that's been walking a dog that's been shot in the head. It's not gang violence. They walking up to children playing basketball and asking them, are you in a gang? And then they just start shooting. That's not gang violence. We have to look between the lines and wonder why they was flying these people into major cities in the dead of night and holding them up and with these high hotel bills to filling up the hotels with illegal immigrants. But I told you what it was about, and I'm gonna let you see it for yourself. This is Atlanta's crime right here. We're gonna let this play first. We're gonna go through Atlanta first.
You do know that serious crime has sharply risen over the last 16 months here in Atlanta, with homicides and aggravated assaults spiking. The latest stats from APB illustrate the disturbing trend. Murders up 65%, aggravated assaults up 40%, and shooting incidents are up 54%. And now we're learning that during at least a portion of the same period, calls to Atlanta's 911 center have sharply fallen. Are they related? 11 Alive's Doug Richards takes a look at a story you'll only see right here on 11 Alive.
We know that violent crime spiked unexpectedly in 2020. Now, another surprising trend may at least help explain it. When Atlanta erupted after days of protests last May 29th, following the killing of George Floyd in Minneapolis, records show there were about 2,500 calls to Atlanta 911 that day. Just one day later, the number of calls to 911 dropped by more than 1/3, and the number of calls mostly stayed down. On the night Rayshard Brooks was shot and killed by police in a Wendy's parking lot less than 3 weeks later, records show the number of 911 calls dropped again afterward. Calls to Atlanta 911 dropped 37% from that point on in 2020 compared to 2019.
While crime was rising, at least during the summer last year, the 911 calls fell, and they fell really significantly.
Activist and blogger George Cheedy compiled the numbers.
And I think that that's a reaction by the public to a perception of police misconduct. People didn't want to call the cops, I think, in part because they were afraid of how the police would react.
Cheedy says it's likely that the drop in 911 calls isn't directly tied to increases in homicides and aggravated assaults, but he thinks the same conditions created both.
It's not that fewer 911 calls create more crime, but that it's a reflection of this breakdown in the relationship between the public and the police. And that breakdown is what causes crime.
Violent crime had dropped in Atlanta for much of the last decade until homicides spiked in 2020. Few people have been able to explain that. Cheedy thinks that the drop in 911 calls last year may at least provide a starting point for some answers.
You do know that.
Okay, these are all Democratic ran cities, and the uptick in crime started in 2020, right before the election. You see, they paint a picture and they scare you into needing someone different, but that someone different is of Satan. And they use our people to oppress us. See, Joe Biden was never for us. He was never who we should have picked. But that's different. That's something for another video. But we have to notice this pattern and think for ourselves. They'll call you and tell you, oh, That's conspiracy theories. But the last 20 conspiracy theories over the last 50 years have been proven to be true. These people are demonic. They have no regards for human life. And the unleash, see, him or Kamala have neither one has been to the border, not one time. You know why? Because they need this to further their agenda. So you've been lied to and lied to. But I want you to notice what kind of people these are doing these murders. Check this out. This is a new one. We're going to go here.
Also breaking tonight, a 14-year-old girl shot in the head.
Our Jermont Terry live now outside Comer Children's Hospital where the girl was taken. Jermont, any news on her condition?
Brad and Erica, doctors are doing everything possible to save this teenager's life. She was rushed into surgery, as you mentioned, with that gunshot wound to her head. Yet another young victim to gun violence, this time in the back of the yards community.
If you look at the top left of your screen, surveillance video shows what witnesses say is a 14-year-old girl and a friend walking a dog moments after leaving a corner store at 48th and Wood. But look closer. In the middle of the screen, you see a guy wearing all black. He runs up, stands in the intersection, and pulls out a gun. Witnesses say he fired 2 shots.
They shot him twice. I don't know, one in the head or both. They shot in the head. But she was hit. They shot him twice.
Hit twice, but at least one bullet hit her in the head.
Jorge Medina is a friend of the girl's family. He tells me it's frustrating to know the teenager was injured walking in their own neighborhood.
If I went to the store to get some chips, and went back, then we got shot, you know.
Moments after the shooting, surveillance captured 3 men running down 48th Street and jumping into an SUV. Police say they are looking for 3 people in connection to the shooting. CPD says only one of the 3 men showed a weapon and fired. It's not clear if they were targeting the teenage girl or the young man she was walking with. Across Chicago, more than 120 kids and teens under 20 have been shot so far this year. And now this 14-year-old is added to the growing list. Everyone's hoping she pulls through.
It's a critical mission. I don't know if it's gonna make it.
Now, the 14-year-old was the only one injured. Her friend was not hurt. Police are reviewing that surveillance video that we just showed you. Again, no one is in custody, and when last listed, this child was in critical condition. Live outside Comer Children's Hospital tonight, Jermont Terry, CBS 2 News.
Jermont, thank you.
Also breaking tonight, a 14-year-old.
Okay, we're gonna go here. This is about the carjackings and how they are everything, you know, in Houston, another Democratic ran city. Philly, another Democratic ran city. New York, oh, we know who runs that. It's the same story. Atlanta.
2 young women were carjacked in Rogers Park as they pulled into their garage.
Eric Rung is live in Rogers Park with more. Eric?
Good morning. Chicago police telling us that 4 men approached the 2 women and then forced them out of their car. According to Chicago police, one of the men did have a handgun. The 2 women got out of the car in the 7700 block of North Marshfield and Rogers Park and gave up their purses and other items, as well as the victim's gray 2021 Toyota RAV4. The 2 women weren't hurt. Chicago police don't have a great description of the suspects other than they were wearing all black and wearing face masks. According to the most recent numbers released by the Chicago Police Department, carjackings have dropped in half since January. The department credits the launch of a carjacking task force, which includes about 40 officers and 4 supervisors. Carjackings were up about 135% in 2020 compared to 2019. In January of this year alone, Chicago police reported close to 200 carjackings. As for this case, there are a number of surveillance cameras on a number of the apartment buildings in this area, so hopefully that should be able to give Chicago police at least a good clue of the, at least to start looking for the suspects in this case. We are live in Rogers Park. I'm Eric Rung, WGN News.
Okay, you hear that? Carjackings up over 133%. Over 200 just in January. Y'all got to know what's going on, man. You have to know what's going on. And it's not a game. It's not a game at all. It's not a game at all, family. I want you to check this out about the sniper.
The Illinois State Police calling
33rd on the outbound. Right, just live, uncut, unedited. We got another expressway shooting. I believe on 33rd inbound. Anybody know anybody with a red Jaguar? A red Jaguar. Person shot on the expressway. I believe shot in the head. Trying to get, I said, people live, uncut, unedited. Expressway shooting. He got shot in the head. Live, uncut. Expressway shooting. The man got shot right here, 33rd, the outbound. Shot in the head. And I think that's a red Jaguar. It's probably a Jaguar. Don't look like a Jaguar to me though, but it could be. Yeah, it is a Jaguar. I see the little, he got shot in the head. Is he still in the car?
What's going on? It's my life in the shot. Your host down and watch the National Sox Stadium right there on 35th. Another victim of the Chicago highway sniper. Nobody saw nothing. Nobody heard nothing. No suspects, no motives, no clue. The Illinois State Police combed that highway for hours, for miles. Found absolutely nothing. Passenger in the car. Highway sniper with precise shooting. Boom! Shot his victim again in the head. The mainstream media finally catching on. Listen to what they say, as in who done it? Who knows? Suspect, meaning the passenger, lives, right? Now, if it's gang members, you see, you got ride through. Nobody saw nothing. Nobody heard nothing. Nobody behind. Front of the vehicles, nobody behind. These highways packed. Check it.
In terms of who was doing the shooting again, it's early on in the investigation. State police say they do not have much on that at this juncture. So as we come back here live at the scene, the Ryan remains closed. Traffic's being forced off onto the various streets heading northbound, the frontage road there, and that traffic is bad as far as you can see. I mean, it's stretching, at least 1.5 miles, 2 miles in that direction there. As I mentioned at the top of this report, yet another expressway shooting. Coming up at 10 o'clock, we'll have more on exactly what's happening here, if this has been reopened or not, and numbers of expressway shootings in Chicago and suburbs this year to date as compared last year to date. And it's ridiculous. In a really bad kind of way.
Ridiculous in a really bad kind of way. I'm just going to keep going. Now, this is New York. You just notice what's going on and who's doing the shooting.
We do talk a lot about gun insanity here on Eyewitness News these days, and tragically, it was on full display across New York City yesterday. 9 shootings on Memorial Day. 9 shootings, a total of 15 victims.
7 of those shootings happened in a span of just 6 hours between 4:45 in the afternoon and 10:40 at night. And there was gun violence in all 5 boroughs. One person, a 15-year-old, was killed.
We'll say that again. A 15-year-old was killed. In one of those shootings, 5 people were hurt. This exclusive video of that shootout in the Bushwick section of Brooklyn. Eyewitness News reporter NJ Burkett obtaining this video, and he joins us live at the scene now.
Right, Bill, Mayor de Blasio told me today that he can feel it in his bones. The city of New York is turning around. But try telling that to the people of Bushwick, Brooklyn, or the people in Queens, Manhattan, the Bronx, or Staten Island. Yes, there were shootings last night in all of those places. 5 people shot here on this street corner alone.
I wasn't here, so I'm glad I wasn't here.
Neighbors know how lucky they were. It was just before 8 p.m. 2 groups of young men are standing outside the neighborhood bodega. Suddenly, one of them opens fire, and it's pandemonium. 5 will be hit with gunshots to the chest and back, in the arms and legs. Amazingly, no bystanders were wounded, but it was only one of several shootings last night. In just 6 hours, there were 7 shootings with 13 victims. One of them, a 15-year-old in Harlem, was killed. A rising tide of gun violence that touched every borough last night. And it all comes as police have struggled for weeks to control violent assaults in the New York City transit system. Today, we asked Mayor de Blasio to explain what's happening and what he's doing about it.
What do you say to people who believe that the crime genie is out of the bottle and you don't know how to stuff it back in?
I understand the fear, I really do. And there's a persistent concern, which I've heard now for decades in this city, of are we going to go back to the bad old days? And I really try my best to help people understand there are so many reasons why that is not going to happen.
The mayor believes that a return to normal economic activity will stem the tide, as well as a fully functioning court system. But so far, the surge in shootings this year is up to 573, leaving a trail of 652 victims, an increase of 78% over 2020. But the mayor believes his policing strategy will ultimately prevail and insists he's focused on the future.
I'm convinced we are going to turn this city around and have recovery for all of us. I can feel it in my bones.
Noted urban studies professor Mitchell Moss of NYU says the mayor is mistaken.
Yeah, the mayor is absolutely got it reversed. Safety produces activity. Activity is not going to produce safety. We have to make the place so safe people want to come and visit and enjoy it.
You see what I'm saying, family? We gotta pay attention to what's going on. In the 90s, when Bill Clinton was president, all of the violence they had in these same cities, the murders, the drive-by shootings, it's like the same thing. It's an old playbook from the Democratic, you know what I'm saying, party. When they first started, when they brought the Ku Klux Klan in 1866, well, I'll say Christmas Eve of 1865, and the Night Riders, the murderers, on New Year's Eve, 1866. The same thing. They torture your people into you submitting to them, giving you these slave catchers, instead of taking control of your own communities, knowing each other, your kids knowing each other, loving each other, so they won't have that inclination of even killing one another, because they have some type of love for one another. But when they keep you divided in the villages, a house divided is sure to fall. There's no village at that point. And then they can infiltrate and they can send these murderers in and say, oh, it's just gang violence. And they can send these snipers in. Oh, it's just gang violence. And they can move you out. You see? Oh, we got to rebuild this. We got to get our people closer to their goddamn jobs. So we're going to sweep all of this right here. We're going to sweep it. Give them so much crime that they can't even see the forest for the trees. Oh, plan. And it's a fear tactic at the fear tactic. Then you got the liar, Fauci. It's been there since day one with them. They rocking and riding together. It's either the COVID or the murder, COVID or the murder, COVID or the murder. They're killing you both ways. When will we realize that? This is a shooting that happened in Philly last night.
Just before 10 p.m., 14th District Police responded to several 911 calls, report of gunshots and a shooting in front of the variety store in the 1200 block of East Shelton Avenue. When police arrived on location, they found a 23-year-old male laying on the front steps of the variety store. He was suffering from a gunshot wound to his head back, and chest. He was unresponsive. Police picked him up. They rushed this 23-year-old shooting victim to Einstein Hospital. This 23-year-old victim was pronounced dead at 10:06 p.m. He was shot in the back of the head, the back, and the chest. Based on ballistic evidence, we know at least 8 shots were fired from a semi-automatic weapon. We found 8 spent shell casings. Most of them were on the sidewalk, right by the front door where the victim was laying. We found several spent shell casings actually on the highway on Shelton. So we know at least 8 shots were fired from.
Okay. I think we've had quite a bit of this reason. You know what I'm saying? To see what is really going on. And see, they use you black politicians like Atlanta's mayor. She's still the favorite in that city, but they making her step down. She can't go for re-election. We done used you. We got what we needed out of you. Stacey Abrams, they used you. They got what they needed out of you. You didn't even get a position. You brought all of those votes in for the Democratic Party and didn't even get a position in his administration. Simone Samuels, the bald head man looking, you know what I'm saying, woman that tackled the supporter coming at Joe Biden, you know what I mean, and carried him down on her shoulder for Joe Biden. He spit in her face, spit in her face. And then they want us to feel sorry for them after they done led us to the slaughter, led our communities to the slaughter. The Al Sharptons, the Roland Martins, the Simone Samuels, the Don Lemons, all of them, they tools of the oppressor, the Stephen A. Smith. Everything they do is for the oppressor, and it's to harm your community. Don't you want to be free? Don't you want to be safe? Don't you want to live in peace? It's got to stop. Any human life lost is a tragedy. But it seemed like we're the deer. You remember they used to have hunting license for blacks. Our ancestors are very angry. They're in an uproar. And they're going to get rid of you all first. Before they start dealing with the demons, they're going to get rid of the henchmen first. I'm going to break a whole detailed video down about gentrification, about the companies doing the reconstruction. I need a team so we can dig into these companies' finances, because this is a lot of work on me. And I'm doing all this by myself. But I'm getting to the bottom of things. We need to get to the bottom of Fauci, Bill Gates, Lieberman, the Harvard scientists. See, all these stories, the SARS and MERS vials that got caught in the Detroit airport going to the Wuhan virus back in 2018. See, they was building this, and how Fauci could say during the Trump administration it would be a plague. How did he know for sure? You know, when all these things are happening, all these people getting caught taking infectious diseases from Harvard, getting caught in airports, taking them to Wuhan, knowing that COVID-19 got SARS, MERS, HIV, all of these infectious diseases that they supposed to be studying. This superbug just automatically got it. It's just done morphed into it. It don't work like that. You know what I'm saying? And I think Senator Rand Paul is on to something. That's why he getting death threats and getting packages with white powder. You know, old Fauci was involved in that anthrax leak and thing back in the day. His name came up. That's why this is so important that we listen to Judy. She tells you exactly who he is and how he did her. She tells you exactly how they just let this disease that they knew so much about come out so they wouldn't look bad and kill millions of people. These are serial killers. And we're going to get to the bottom of it.